And we are live, Cordelia. This is amazing. I'm so excited to be spending this time with you. To everyone watching and catching this, we are live on Annie Lieb's live stream. Yes, I said that twice. To keep talking about our book, Begin with the Breath, our latest collaboration within the Breath Framework team. So I have this very special time with our authors and our amazing coaches to ask them questions that resonate with me, with their chapter, and with all of us through this pandemic, especially. And Cordelia, welcome. Please introduce yourself.
Thank you, Jenny. I appreciate this time with you. So I've upgraded my bio recently to include some of the things we'll be talking about today. So I say that I'm a multidimensional genius, and I also call myself the emotions opener because the experience that I create when I'm with people, whether I'm coaching them or I'm just in their presence, is so that they are comfortable being with their emotions and using that as uh, a source of power and empowerment as opposed to something that they want to run away from. More on that later. And I'm also a best-selling author of 8 books, mother of 6 children, and the host of 2 podcasts. And so that's the short version, and you'll find out the rest as we continue talking.
Yes, I'm looking forward to it. Your chapter is full of examples and also exercises. It's really something to dive into and learn from. And what what deeply resonates with me is how loving ourselves enables us to truly serve from our overflow. And I see such beautiful servantship in you. It's just been a joy to get to know you for sure. So, when it comes to beginning where we are, you bring up that we are so often present with other people's expectations of us. And as a mother as well, I recognize those moments when I'm with my children, my mind wanders to them, and I know that they want me to be fully present with them when I pick them up after daycare, and just everyone around says, they want deep relationship and they want so much. That's how we experience it often. So just share with me, like, what was that journey like for you to come back to simply being present with you and your moment?
Yeah, that's a great question. First and foremost, it was a grounding, right? It was an exercise in grounding for myself because my mind was always skipping ahead. I would, even if I had one child in front of me, I'd anticipate, oh, the next one's going to come, and I have to morph into the mother for that child. And so one day when I felt so much overwhelm in my body, I stopped and I just closed my eyes and I was like, what is happening in this moment? And there was nothing, right? It was just that I was sitting there closing my eyes. And I loved having access to that. And so I created a habit of just being in this moment. And when, as things change, the person in front of me changes or whatever I'm doing changes, then I'm in that moment. And if I'm not fully available to be present with that person, then I will say, I'm not available right now. Can we agree to another time? It's really simple. Yeah.
I love that. What comes up for me is acceptance. It's letting go, like letting go of the outcome, right? And your title to your chapter is actually operating in detachment. I
Yeah.
love that. It's so intriguing. So yes, you write about nurturing yourself. Like nurturing, what does that look like to you? Because it sounds to me that this is something that you do in this moment when you are letting go to come back to yourself, to be present with you. Um, Tell me more about how you nurture yourself.
Yeah. In the beginning, it was just, and that the next moment after that one, it was like, if my mom were here, what would she do? How would she care for me? And so just embodying the image of mothering myself and having compassion for myself. And like over time, what nurturing has become is self-forgiveness. It's become self-trust, self-belief. And so the ways that I nurture myself are, they're small and they're big, you know, if you want to give it an adjective, but nurturing is what it is. So having, you know, forgiveness for myself is just like, let's say, for example, I don't say, I'm not fully available now. You know, let's set another time, right? And I'm just like, get out. That happens.
Really?
Yeah, it happens. You know,
Yeah.
I have like I have a lot of different emotions, don't we all? And so those times it's just like, you know,
Yeah.
okay, I can forgive myself. That's who I
Yeah.
was in that moment. Yeah, it's all right.
Hmm. Beautiful. Yes. When what comes up for me is also our ability to go back further in time and also forgive ourselves for what we didn't know before we learned it. Just
Yeah.
that standard of grace, not perfection. I love that. It's been a major part of my own healing journey as well. So another word that pops out for me that I think we get to be more mindful with how we use it is to honor ourselves. So I'd love to hear more about what that means to you.
You know, when I think of honoring, I really think of congruence. That's what it's been for me because so often we're walking in cognitive dissonance, which means that there's a gap between what we say we desire and what and who we're being. And closing that gap for me has been so huge in honoring my own values and being, and it makes it so much easier to create habits to honor my values because, you know, I can aspire to do something. I can aspire to like every morning I'm going to do 50 push-ups, right? And then it'll happen just on Mondays. And then the rest of the week it's just like, yeah, you know, maybe I'll walk 20 minutes later, you know? And honoring my value of wanting to always have enough energy and keeping my vibration up keeps me congruent with, all right, we're going to do the 50. It may be in sets of 10 throughout the day, but it's happening, you
Hmm.
know, and keeping my word to me.
Yeah. And in that way, showing up for yourself in that very situation, it's really honoring all sides of yourself. Sometimes we will push ourselves instead and force the situation, right? I've been there so many times and I still find myself there. So that's such a comfort to let go and allow, really.
Yeah.
Instead. Beautiful. So you also share about just the importance of us slowing down, also as part of coming back to ourselves and beginning where we are and finding ourselves where we are. And I believe that throughout the pandemic, uh, many of us feel like we've been forced to slow down. We've been forced to pause. And I've heard so many clients express that they notice that, when they can't do anything else, when they are not able to keep running, they recognize that there's actually difficult emotions inside of themselves that they start to get in touch with as they're slowing down, and they're starting to put two and two together that this has often been the reason for them stressing and pushing and going to the next thing, because it was difficult to handle those emotions and that anxiety. So I'm interested, like, do you have any words of comfort for those who are just struggling a bit to be present with themselves and slow down and take that pause?
So, you know, I know you're going to ask me this later, but I'm just going to go ahead and talk about it. So, I have different themes for every day, right? Because words are super important to me, which is why I write so much. And so, you can choose adjectives or not. Is it a difficult emotion or is it just an emotion? For the first 2 years of our life, we feel mostly because we don't really have vocabulary words yet. So, um, in those moments that you're having these feelings, you have a choice to name it or not. Um, and I choose to, when I'm choosing to name something, I choose things that are giving me life, right? So, like
Mm.
today is Sweet Talk Sunday. And so, what that means is the creation of the positive polar opposite of whatever it is that's either I'm experiencing or the words coming through my mind. And so that's nurturing, that's honoring, and that's slowing down all at once. I mean, it's a lot to think about, right? Like, what if you got yourself busy with what's the positive polar opposite of life sucks? Like that slows you down, doesn't it? Yeah.
Beautiful. It's growing through the lesson. It's opening up to the opportunity uh, in the midst of suffering. Yes.
And which is relative. Like, are you suffering? Really?
Oh, mm-hmm.
I mean, again, it's vocabulary. You're
Yeah,
naming it suffering. You don't have to call it suffering.
yeah.
What I call these things character building, right? And
Beautiful.
the beautiful part of that is my character is being built just by
Mhm,
choosing to think that instead.
mhm. Yeah. So my angle to that has been suffering can be a beautiful thing, to not fall into bad, good, but to be open to the experience that we are here to experience. And now you're adding just another layer to that. So I love that. Thank you so much. Another thing that many clients speak of right now is loss. Like, it's through the pandemic, we have not only lost loved ones to COVID or in other circumstances. There's been people losing their jobs. Like, there's been loss of what could have been or what you had hoped to see. And also in those kind of losses, there are stages of grief. So I'd love to invite you to share a bit about the stages of grief and how you relate to that.
Yeah, I think, for me, the stages of grief have been accelerated during the pandemic to the point where it's almost like a transmutation. It's
Mm,
like the thing goes, and then I'm like, okay, there's another thing going. It's making space for something better or something else, you know? Um, and there are things that I've lost that have been so much a part of me for so long that it's hard to say that, right? Like I've changed my car a couple of times in the past 2 years. It's like, okay, yeah, whatever, another car. Um, I've changed friends. I've changed. I actually live in the same neighborhood, but I still there are other things that have changed. I got a divorce. And so, as much as I am busying myself with what's the benefit here and how is that building my character, there are muscle memories and neurological memories and language patterns and routines that in the beginning, I'd have to say I didn't really do the denial thing. I was more like on the celebratory end, you
Mm,
know?
yeah.
And then, there were times where I was really in a deep depression. And then there were times when I was really, really angry, And and I have to say, all all together, it's like really just as I'm going through each stage, it's giving me an opportunity to assess, okay, so anger, what am I really angry about? And what's the meaning of the emotion anger? I talk a lot about that in my other book that came out in 2020, in Detached Love. And so anger, when I researched it, actually it is something that allows us to be aware of what our own personal values are that we've been ignoring and not giving space or nurturing to, right?
Mm,
And so the thing that made me so angry um, was all the times I gave up my power instead of honoring my own values. And so when I realized that before, and people may experience this as well, before I was able to just elevate myself and go into straight self-forgiveness, yeah, that doesn't happen. I was like in this just abyss of depression.
mm,
And I I was like, okay, so this is really heavy. And to make it lighter, I just allowed myself to jump in there and just
mm,
be with it, And being with that depression was so it was like a load off, right? Because we feel like I think society tells us to fight it and like, you're better than this and you can't function like that. Yeah, you can function in depression. There's plenty of people that are dysfunctional, you know, and they don't know it. They just self-medicate, right? So if you choose not to self-medicate and you choose to feel what's going on without naming it, without judgment, that's where the healing begins. And some tools for that are um, movement. Movement is really great, but you have to move your chi. You have to move your energy within. So I started a practice of Qigong, which I had used many years ago, but I like in the revisiting of it, I really fully embodied it. And like there's qigong practices specific for depression and for detoxification, and that's what's happening. You're really detoxifying your spirit self, your energy self, because there are energy bodies that attach to you when you've been married for years, when you've had a job for years, when you've had this or that or been, so those are the things that need to be released when you're in that deep depression. So you have to move and you cannot, this is a time where you're back in that infantile state where the first 2 years we just feel, we don't talk. So, and the Qigong really helped me to finally get to a place where I could talk and say, "Oh, Cordelia, I love you, and I forgive you for whatever choices you made, and now you can, you know, move forward with this
mm.
new knowledge and wisdom." And yeah, so that's the importance of really being with the emotions without naming it. Just, because I went from I felt like jumping down boulders into that abyss to just like, okay, I'm jumping off the boulders will drop, and I'm just gonna free fall. So yeah.
Beautiful. It's so powerful to hear your story. Like reading your chapter, it's the first time, and it's for me to get that close to you. And it's this is this is the future. This is the future of coaching and how we do business is that we are transparent with our own journeys of transformation, our own journeys of healing, And just to hear you, like the way that you have that self-talk, it's yes, it just it shifts in a different way, you know, than had we not chosen to be vulnerable. um Beautiful. I When I think about anger, I think about the fact that you are standing for something. There's a willingness in there to stand for something, and as you say, like there's a teaching in there as to where, you know, somewhere I am giving my power away. And when I think about depression, I think about disconnection, and the invitation to find the areas where we get to realign and, you know, re-embody our core values, for example. So let's move into that.
Okay.
Like, yes, I you speak of like embodying your core values, and I quickly go into the words like aligning with them. So please tell me more about what does that look like to you to embody your core values?
Yeah. So like as I keep saying, I keep talking about it's a muscle memory, right? So like
Mhm.
we are human beings and we operate from a place of our muscles, right? How we're moving in the world physically. And you know, we when we use words like alignment, right? It's more like in my mind that is a distancing from how we're living, you know? So when I talk about embodying, it's like, okay, I am joy. What does joy feel like? How how am I going to be that today in my body? I can't be joy if there's a piece of my body that's anger or a piece of my body that's sad or something else. So I like search within my body and think and feel like, okay, why are you not joy? Like left hip, what's happening? You know? And so sometimes you wiggle it. Sometimes it's just like, I'm sorry, I'm not going to do that. And and then I have to just be with that. And so that's, you know, when I talk about congruence, we can we can fully be what we're trying to create in the world when we do the body check first. If we're all up here all the time, we're not,
Mm,
you know, then we can't really be that because we're like, wait, I got to think this way, I got to say this. And the words always, they should come from somewhere here. Like it's either coming from your stomach or your heart, right? Like the your core. And you should always be speaking from your core. And if you're not, then you're not congruent, you're not in alignment, and you're not being in integrity.
mm, beautiful. So, um, for people who are feeling disconnected right now, who are battling, or let's so again words like people who are experiencing depression, how can you share a bit about your journey towards like opening up and meeting yourself with that self-love and asking support? What did that look like to you?
You know, to be clear, I feel like there's two distinct types of depression, right? So there's like a chemical, um, clinical condition of depression, you know, where people cannot access it unless there's some, um, they have to get help, you know, with the help of a psychiatrist or a therapist or something like that, right? And then there's depression where like I feel most of us were experiencing during the pandemic where it's just a little bit less joyful than usual, and this is where we have a choice. We literally have a choice to be depressed or not, you know? And that, you know, that's where it's just like, what is upsetting me? You know, what am I depressed about? Oh, I've got all these things and nobody's helping me. Okay, why isn't nobody helping me? I didn't ask. Who can I ask? You know, who can I ask without the filter of, oh, they're going to think I'm weak. oh, they're going to think I'm incapable. Oh, they're going to think this, or they're going to think, oh, she's an emotions coach. How is she, needing help with something so basic? No judgment, just who can I ask for help?
Mm.
And I think, women, not that men don't struggle with this. I think women are more in the mindset that they have to prove themselves on so many other levels that just the slight indication that they're a little bit incapable of doing something that they think is as basic, or maybe other people might classify as basic, um, it puts them into a deeper depression, So for me, I didn't really care. I started asking my neighbors for help. And sometimes they said yes, and sometimes they said no. And then I would go out, because like for me, it was like an immediate physical thing, right? And so I need someone who's physically nearby. Then, it's like, oh, well, do I really need help with someone physically nearby? And then, I just went out a little bit further. So most of my actual friends live about an hour away from me, right? And then there are people like you that are in completely different countries, So it's like, um, just having that willingness, to really be a stand for what I require, and just asking and not
Mm.
worrying about the outcome.
Yeah. And to me, that's a way of manifesting my worth. It's a way of teaching it to myself to do that, opening up and letting people know. It's also such a great example of leadership in my world. And an invitation to the people around me to free themselves and show up exactly where they are. I don't even have to say it that that's what I'm doing, but just the fact that I'm going over to my colleague's door and knocking and letting her know is an invitation to deeper connection. To me, it's beautiful. Again, back to connection, right?
Yes,
Yes,
always.
yes, always. So, tell me more about how you feel about coaching through the breath framework. Yeah. Mm.
Yeah, I feel like the breath framework is definitely the next logical step. After you take care of nurturing yourself, then it's it's a seamless process, to begin where you are. Like, you can slow down, just be there, reclaim your power, reclaiming your values, and just, really allow yourself to excavate and be with the uncomfortableness of what it is. Allow, and you're going through it. Of course, for me, like I was describing, going through it is relative, right? Because like I not really going through the boulders, I'm letting them fall and I'm free falling. So that's and then that allows the healing. So the breath framework is something that I resonate with deeply, because it's it's a process that it's proven it can work on a personal level, it can work on a professional level, it can bring together teams, and it's just a real source of connection, you know, with yourself and with others.
Beautiful, thank you. And Cordelia, you have authored before. So I'm asking you to share a little bit about your books. And I know that you have so much understanding for also nourishing yourself and how we can nurture and nourish our bodies with what we eat. So please tell me a bit more about that.
Yeah, so in 2020, the last book before this was Detached Love. And here I go through my replenish me process. And one of the things which is parallel to the breath framework is where the restructure is finding your values and creating habits that honor those values. And within that is the 5 self-nurturing tips. Um, which is things that everybody avoids, but our bodies and our beings require, right? So sleep is going to affect the way you think, which is going to affect your choices to move in the morning, and then when you move, it's you have to choose carefully what you're going to eat, and that is all these boil down to your emotions. So we literally have an opportunity to change ourselves on a cellular level to support whatever it is we have to do, with how much we sleep and what we choose to eat. Yeah.
We're talking connection at a cellular level. That's really
Yeah.
going deeper for
Yeah.
sure. Beautiful. So I really enjoyed this time with you. I feel very, very calm and relaxed. Just being in your presence, Cordelia. It's like feeding my soul. So nice. Is there anything more you'd like to share or add about your chapter, about your work?
About my chapter, about my work. When you read the Begin with the Breath, read it about yourself. See yourself in our stories, because yes, we wrote the book so you get to know who we are, so that you'll know, love, and trust us. And so you can also get to know who you are, so you can know, love, and trust yourself. Because there's no better or valuable connection than the one you have with yourself. And the longer you allow that distance between who you are and who you desire to be, you're just delaying everything that you could live in your life. And begin, with your words. Choose different words. Speak life into your life with every breath. And it's a choice in every moment. Like I just came back from Arizona and I have a new nickname. Did you know that?
No.
Yeah, I have a new nickname. It's called Joymonger. Like people.
Love that. Yes.
Yeah. So choose a new nickname that really embodies who you are, who you want to be. And I'm going to be showing people how to joymonger at my Replenish Me experience at the end of March in Miami. So that's all I have left. That's it. Just,
Beautiful.
yeah.
Thank
This
you
was
so
really
much.
great.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay, Cordelia, we'll end here. Thank you so much, and thank you everyone watching. Please reach out with your questions and thoughts, and I will be back next Sunday with another beautiful author. So thank you for today.
Bye for now.